Welcome to Joy in the Breakthrough, a podcast where we'll be talking to a wide range of leaders from different generations and backgrounds, leaders who have found power in being broken open. I'm Connie Lindsey.
And I'm Anna Valencia. We are your hosts, and we believe that our challenges can lead to breakthroughs, and we want to share those insights with you.
We hope these stories will inspire you to explore the I'm possible in you.
Thank you again for joining us in Season 2. We've got the team back together again. Yes. Anna DeShawn, our superstar, all-star producer, is back in the studio for a great conversation with Connie and I. And before we start, I'm going to give a little bit of background. If you missed her in Season 1, please go back to Season 1 and listen, and then come back and listen to this episode again. But in case you missed it, Anna's pronouns is anything respectable. She is a multi-award, Ambie Award-winning podcast producer and host. She's also a Chicago-born social entrepreneur who builds streaming platforms which center and celebrate BIPOC and QTPOC creatives, media. And also has her passion in 2009. She turned that passion into reality when she founded E3 Radio, an online radio station playing queer music and reporting on queer news with an intersectional lens. She's also about to be inducted into the LGBTQ Hall of Fame on October 3rd, and we're going to be there in your cheering section. Awesome. And we are so excited that you said yes to producing our Joy in the Breakthrough. We were talking earlier, Connie, if we did not have Anna D, what would be happening?
We'd probably be somewhere having tea when we should be here. That's probably...
We'd be showing through the wrong time, the wrong date.
It would just be interesting.
So all the magic you have also brought this to life. So
y'all bring the magic, okay? I'm grateful. It's been an honor.
Well, I just love the way that it came together and how we are living our authentic selves, that we make space for our lives, ourselves, our relationships, and when we make new friends and get to know people, and getting to know you has certainly just been a blessing for me. It's been amazing.
Yes, and adding you to my kitchen table has been a blessing. I know when we interviewed you, you were the only person we talked to, and we wanted you to sign a contract that day. And since then, we've become such great friends, and more like family. Connie got to celebrate your 40th birthday. You came to dinner in my front yard on 110-degree weather and sat in my front yard sweating through dinner at my kitchen table celebration, my redirection resilience night. So I just feel like it's wonderful that we can kind of celebrate each other and have this pod bring magic to the world.
I mean, y'all are just beautiful humans, right? And so when I quit corporate, we're going to talk about breakthroughs and all that good stuff, but when I quit corporate, I wanted to do work that inspired me, that made a difference, and things that I wanted to do. And so when I had that call, you sign a contract, I'm like, yeah. The vibes is right, okay? The energy is right. This is in alignment. It just made sense. And it's been magical ever since.
I love it.
Yes.
We in Season 2.
Season 2.
Boom, 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 boom.
Rising in the ranks.
You know what I mean?
We're rising in the ranks.
Y'all
Watch
rocking
out.
it.
And just watching you, Anna, and this is Anna D and Anna V, so I have the privilege of working with two Annas. So just watching you, Anna D, though, as things have exploded for you in terms of your work, and I know we're going to talk about whatever it is we're going to talk about, but I really want you to have
He's already forgotten
all right, it's like
today.
I'm already grooving on a whole nother thing. But just in terms of how opportunities have opened up with you and the message that you want to deliver to the world and how you build teams and what that means and your advocacy. So hopefully we can get all that in. That's like making gumbo. We've got a good roux, though. We're the roux, right?
Yes.
We're the good foundation. So however you want to add that, to just share that with people, because I think it's enlightening.
Well, let me tell you, this pod also helps feed all of that you just mentioned, right? I mean, I literally, Miss Connie, in most rooms I'm in, if I get a chance to talk, I'm like, are y'all covering all the ground you standing on? I don't know. Miss Connie told me that's what we need to be doing. I'm just over here saying say less all the time, okay?
I love it.
I mean, and embodying it, living it. Like, it's one thing to do the pod, and y'all are listening to the pod, and I hope y'all are enjoying it. But then it's another thing to take it from the pod and actually live it in your life, right? And I think the goal here is to inspire people to actually do the things that you are tipping and techniquing them about, right? And to live and embody these beautiful things. And both of you are examples of that, right? And that's why people tune in.
One of the things that I've been blessed with, so our pod is intergenerational. So I know nobody can tell, but I will be the elder on the podcast.
Absolutely not.
No one can tell, okay?
But what I call that is being a modern elder, and you've both heard me say that. And a modern elder is as curious as she is wise. And so when you talk, Anna and Anna, about, I'm curious about how we can leverage the podcast. You both know I was the one that you are like, yeah, we can do a podcast. I'm thinking, well, I need a plan, a Gantt chart, with all the other things I would get in corporate. And you're like, no, we're just going to go do this. We got you, girl. We're going to make this work. And so that's the blessing to me, just another benefit of being able to have you both in my life.
Yeah. Oh, it's been so great. Y'all have to listen to the first episode where y'all recap, right?
Yes.
Season 2 and talk about the journey.
Yes.
Because it's been a journey, and I think in all things it is, if we're doing it with intention.
Yes.
And every episode that you all plan, the guests that are curated, because everybody want to be on, okay? You are not alone. You too want to be on the show, so does everybody else, okay? But you all curated because you all know the stories of these people and like the gifts that they bring to the world, and you want to share that with other people.
Especially with a larger impact, because at times, like, we said this in our first episode, we want to do coffees with everyone. We want to meet one-on-one with everyone, but we just don't have enough time in the day to do all of that. And so being able to bring this wisdom and these tips and techniques and stories and experiences out to the whole world, I feel like that is just joy. And it gives me so much more than I even put into it. I get so much more. But I want to get to, I'm going to get back on topic because Connie doesn't even know what we're talking about today.
Yeah.
Tell our listeners, if those are just tuning in now, who is Anna DeShawn? You will hear about Anna in the last season, but tell us, who are you, Anna D?
Who am I? I'm a social entrepreneur. I really love that term because anything that I do, I want it to have some type of social impact. I'm a Virgo, okay? I overthink. I'm not that great with small talk. It has to be with intention or with a purpose. Yes. So I've always wanted to own my own. And I learned that as a young person, my mom put me in an investment club called Ujamaa. And there were 3 things. You need to own your own home, own your own piece of corporate America, and own your own business, right? And that has always stuck with me. And anytime I took one of those quizzes, they were like, yeah, you need to work for yourself. And it's not that I'm not a great employee. I'm a great employee. We're going to talk about growing teams and how we can be great team members and all that good stuff. It was just that I have a vision and how I want to execute things and how I think things should be done. And when you are someone whose identities are on the margins, you often have been impacted by leadership that has not been thoughtful and leadership that has not been inclusive. And not because maybe someone doesn't want to, they don't know how to. They've never had to think about what that means because privilege allows for that to happen. So I'm excited we can talk about inclusive teams. I hope this conversation can inspire someone who's a business owner or who works in a company that's not being inclusive to shift how they do work and how they do business.
What are the 2 key elements, what you say, Anna, of an inclusive team? How do I know if I'm working? I mean, it's obvious if I'm not, because, sometimes the behavior is overt, but sometimes it's covert.
Yes.
How do we identify what an inclusive team looks like? Who is that leader what are those behaviors? What does that look like?
Yeah, so as all the identities, okay, so Black, queer woman, I'm always looking for language. For me is the first thing. So it starts with policies. It starts with your handbook. I just reported on this story on the Queer News Pod about dictionary.com. So they've added a whole bunch of words, right? But they've also gone through the definitions and removed pronouns where they were not necessary. So, there's definitions that be like, and then he or she moved that chair. Do we need to know that?
Yes.
Just move the chair.
Yes.
Right? So when was the last time you looked at your policies and said, maybe this language isn't needed? Because when I'm looking at them with my queer lens, I'm looking for those signals. I'm looking for pronouns that are expansive. I'm looking for words like siblings. I want to know that you all have thought about me because it's so obvious when they have not. So first, I think it's language and how we approach everyone with the words that we say. I also think it's about your culture. So, things like unlimited time off, for example. I know it's a new thing. It makes people a little uncomfortable, you know. But in a generation,
the corporate in me was like, what?
I know. But
or hybrid work.
Hybrid
Well,
work.
I'm good with hybrid.
Makes
I'm good
people
with
break
hybrid.
out and hide
I'm good with
still, though.
hybrid.
It does.
Yeah,
It does.
There's still the conversation about it,
The
right?
white men CEOs just, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but I think there's something to it, right? So I know a lot of people who work in work environments where there's unlimited PTO. But here's the deal. We know people don't take PTO.
They don't.
Yeah.
Right? People want to do a good job. They want to show up at work. But if I know I can take time off and it be okay, maybe that helps to shift the culture to say, when you're gone, you're gone. And it's okay. How many hours are left on the table? How many people end up having to pay people out thousands of dollars because they've never taken a vacation day? These things cause for us to be more inclusive.
Sure.
Mental health days make things feel more inclusive. Like, I need a break. I don't know. Those are a few things that come to mind.
Well,
for
I think
me.
as leadership matters, and we just were talking to Dr. Jean on leading well, because I found this in my own senior leadership team, which is mostly women and women of color, and we have 2 men on the team. God bless them. But I noticed at the end of last year they weren't taking all their vacation days, and they were all trying to get it done in December. I was like, what is happening? And so also I want to model this year. I was very intentional modeling of taking time off. And I felt guilty taking 3 weeks off. Well, it was supposed to be 2, then 3, for tonsillectomy. But I was very transparent to my team. I was open and honest about, hey, I'm having medical surgery and I'm taking the time to heal that I need to. And I actually had 2 team members come up to me and thank me for being so honest, because I think we have to know that our leaders are human, our team members are human, and we sometimes think about them as little
well, we
paper
also
pushers.
we show confidence in them. I am a true believer that the world will not end when I'm no longer a part of it.
Yes.
And sometimes as leaders, as I said before, they're building ecosystems and not ecosystems. And so if you're all caught up in who you are as a leader, you're not growing your team and allowing them the ability to bring who they are to work, creating an environment and a culture where they can really prosper, where they can thrive. I love to think of it as thriving. How do you thrive at work? How do you have joy at work? Now, there are days, we all know when you have difficult days, but how do we create, you mentioned the word culture, Anna D., and that's so true. I define culture as how things get done in an organization. And if we're looking at those employee manuals and all of that and really having language that is inclusive and behaviors, that creates then a culture of inclusion, a culture of belonging. And I know in my former role as global head of DE&I at Northern Trust, we did exactly that. We were one of the first firms to offer partner benefits. So we were very much thinking about, because guess what? It's a talent opportunity.
Yes.
That's it.
Hi, I'm Clayton Pryor, guest hosting for Darius Hillman. Joining me on the next edition of In the Arena, SIU Chancellor Austin Lane.
With one of the most diverse campuses in the country when you think about the number of minority students that we enroll.
Tuesday at 7 p.m. on CAN-TV Cable Channel 19 and streaming on cantv.org and the CAN-TV Plus app. Experience the power of community television.
All of us have probably experienced the weight of being the only one.
Yes.
And so, and I often counsel and coach my mentees to, you don't want to be the Messiah. Being the only one is interesting, but lifting as we climb is important.
Yes, absolutely.
And you're right. So how do we bring in people who can share that? Nor do we want the burden of always having to explain our lived experience to someone else. Or to the leadership who doesn't look like us or who isn't diverse. You all need to work that through and own the culture and how you can change and shift. Although we'll come back to talk about backlash these days, the backlash that we're seeing.
It's yeah, everybody got something to say. But and I think, even something that to me seems small, but I know it's a big deal in corporate culture too, is the idea around pronouns. And I've talked to a lot of people around this. And they people feel comfortable asking me, and I appreciate that. I'm here to teach, right? Everybody ain't a teacher, so you can come talk to me. It's cool, But a lot of people don't know why they need to do it. And I explain it as you saying your pronouns invite somebody in who often probably is not invited into the room. And so it's not about you saying your pronouns. It's about making a space where the person whose pronouns are different than everybody else's feels welcome to share theirs. and be
Say
in
that
whole
one more
space.
time, because I cannot tell you how many times I've been in conversations with people who've said, I don't want to share my pronouns. I don't want to do that. So really, one more time so that people understand it's not about
It's
You.
not
It's not
about
about
you.
It's not about you.
It's
yes.
not about you. It's about the person in the room who's on the margins, who needs to know that they are also welcome here. That is what it's about. And that's why I say anything respectful.
I love that.
Because any given day, no one knows what my pronouns are, okay? Let's be clear. I've been misgendered on planes. Even just recently, I was on a plane, and the flight attendant misgendered me and then tried to apologize, and then it's just in the aisle, just blubbering over his words. And it's 5 a.m. I'm on a red eye, and I'm just like, it's okay.
Only human.
It's okay. Go on about your day. I'm trying to take a nap. And, even when I woke up, I was like, I thought I might have a teachable moment. I didn't have the energy.
Yes.
But just sort of just being kind with that person in that moment, right, is what just needed to happen. But it's all about respect. And so you want to be respected. The person who's on the margins wants to be respected. And I find that, especially women of color, understand at the depths of what it means to not feel included in a space. And I feel like the way that women lead allows for everybody to be at the table.
And that requires a strong sense of self.
Yes.
I say to leaders, I don't have to agree with every position that someone takes. But as a leader, I allow space for the person to have that position or view in order to lead. And Brene Brown said something that I agree with more than I could agree with anything. She said, in order to lead people, it is important for you to care or love them, care about them. And I don't mean romantic love. I mean that kind of agape love that says you have a right to be here and to be treated well. And that is so, so true.
Love is humans.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's incredibly
Doesn't make
important.
us weak.
And I know. And I loved what Dr. Jean said is like being authentic to lead. And for me, my struggle coming in as a early 30 something, I think it was 31 when I became city clerk, I didn't know how to lead like me. I was leading like all the men I had worked for.
Of course.
Because I'd only worked for men because I was in the political space. So it was like very unheard of to be on a staff of a woman that had enough staff to hire as a woman elected.
Yeah.
And thank God I saw other finally women of color like Kim Fox and Janice Jackson and some others that had taken those helms to look at, say, oh, wow, they're stepping in their power and their confidence and really then looking inside of like what feels right to me. And I think that's like a journey, ongoing discovery. But if you are a good leader, you are going to look inside and take some time for that self retrospect to see, okay, what feels right and not forced to what have been, grown up to understand what power means. I used to think power was barking orders at people or yelling or whoever is the loudest in the room. And that is completely wrong. So it's a shift of a mindset.
It is. Oh man, this is such a great conversation. Okay. So it's like, it irks me so much when we lead organizations in the ways in which organizations have been led.
Yes.
Right? Because when you were sitting in that organization, you didn't like it.
No. I hated being barked at or going home in tears. Like,
you didn't like how it felt. You didn't like waking up in the morning to go to that job. And what was that? Like, those are things we have to unlearn and not replicate. We can do business and work at a level that includes everybody and hears everybody. I also think I've been in these conferences and these spaces with folks of color, or even around salary conversations, right? Corporate says we don't talk about salaries. We don't talk about how much people make.
Government just puts it online.
Okay. Okay. Transparency, right?
And it's changing.
And I had to think, like, why? Why wouldn't somebody in corporate America want to know, everybody know how much they're making? Because it wasn't equal. Because this person over here was making $20,000 more than me, and I'm doing more work than they were doing. So, of course, they don't want you to know. How does power affect how we show up in these spaces? Do we really want that? Now, I ain't saying go out here and blast what you make. Okay, that's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is there should be a culture where people feel comfortable to talk.
And there is a lot of work being done to talk about making salaries, salary transparency, because we know that. Are you paying what the job is worth? Or are you paying what you believe that individual is worth? And so it is. If being a CEO or a clerk or whatever it is worth $75,000 a year because that is what the role requires, then that's what the salary ought to be. And there is a lot of work that's being done where there's more transparency with salaries inside corporations, and it is important. And I always say the talent, the demand and requirement for talent is what will drive that. It's so important.
It's so important. And everybody, it's funny. So my dad is an educator, 49 years, teacher. He's a great human being, okay? But he taught in private high school, Lutheran high school, for the majority of his career. Wow. But he always walked around like he had no authority, okay? You could see him on any given day with some cargo shorts on and a whack T-shirt, okay? He never wanted to look like he was the principal or the dean of students because he wanted to know how you were going to treat him.
Absolutely. Whatever you do to the least of these, right?
That is exactly how he functioned, okay? And some days he was the janitor, okay? Because it was a private school without a lot of funding. Some days that was him. So how are you treating me in this
there are
moment?
job interviews that people go on and executives get tested on, and you have a lunch or a dinner. And one of the criterion is how you treat the wait staff.
Really?
Yes. You go into the restaurant and we sit down and you're ordering. How do you treat the wait staff? If you can't be kind to that person, how might you treat individuals within the workplace? And I've done that before. I've gone to lunch or dinner, and people who are mean to wait staff or people they perceive as less than them, those are not people that I want to spend much time around. And that is a true indicator of who they are, or this whole notion of being married to power. And power is knowing how to use your power when you need to.
And you don't have to usually raise your voice.
Exactly right.
At all.
Exactly
Because if you have power, you don't have to wield it like that because people know they can feel it when you step into the office, in the room, you take up that space.
Yes.
And they feel it. And I want to commend your dad because as a city clerk, I like selling city stickers on the front line. So I'll be selling city stickers on the front line, or I might be printing city keys out in the community. And no one knows until my team might tell them, because I also like to know what it's like for my team to do the job and being on site. And then I realize you all are working through your bathroom breaks.
That's
You're
right.
all not taking lunch. You're all, why? And like, well, there's so much need. We need to get these city keys out. I'm like, yes. And also I respect your hustle and your commitment and service to the community. But you all got to take a lunch. You need to take a break and stuff. And so I think it's so important as leaders. I love that your dad did that, and I'm going to keep doing that because I think you learn so much about your team.
There's a cable show, maybe it's on regular TV, where it's called Undercover Boss.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I love that show.
I love that show, Anna D. I watch it because it is so real. And oftentimes at the end of the show, that boss, and I often say I'm a leader, not a boss, because a boss is a double SOB backwards.
Ooh, okay.
So I want to be a leader. And
Not everybody gonna be saying that. Y'all just make sure y'all quote Miss Connie.
Is that a say less?
Yeah, exactly. But that's what I love about that show. And they come out and they realize people are not having a good quality of life or experience at their, and they're real people. They have things happening. There's sickness in their family, or they're going through some kind of traumatic event. Ask questions, get to know who people are, versus just how are you doing today? Wait for the answer. Or be able to discern when somebody on your team might be performing differently, not because they're trying to slough off at work. There might be something going on in their lives. I was a caregiver for my husband and my mother, both of them at the same time, her with dementia and my husband with cancer twice. And fortunately for me, I worked for a leader who cared enough to say, do you need anything? How can we support you? I mean, that's important.
Everything.
Yeah.
Well, of course, it's that time where we gotta. I know it goes by. This one, I love our energy together. I love our vibe.
Be continued.
To be continued. Yes.
What's going on, Chicago? I'm Darius Caffey, and I invite you to join me for a new episode of The Table on Air with special guest, social media influencer, and powerhouse, DeAndre Brown.
For us, it's like, yeah, I'm delusional, but my delusions are going to become my reality.
Join the conversation with us on Tuesday, October 24th at 7:30 p.m. on CanTV Cable Channel 19, streaming on cantv.org, and available on the CanTV Plus app. Experience the power of community television.
Leave us a tip or technique, one that you think really can help shift culture or make a space more belonging that you've seen work.
Something that I've seen work in my own business is, it seems so simple, but honesty. So there was a moment, because I have a small team, and one of my team members, I had to tell them, like, I can't pay you this week. I could pay you on Monday. I can't pay you on Friday. Like, this money's about to move. And there was something in me that was like, I just need to be honest.
Yeah.
Because the corporate culture I grew, was raised in. It was just like, you don't talk about money with the folks that are working in the organization. You just tell them what's going to happen. It's not a conversation. This is just what it is.
Yes.
And then there's a period. But now I'm like, I didn't like how that felt.
Yeah.
And I wanted somebody to be honest with me. Because once they tell one lie, then they have to keep telling it.
Exactly. And that's no way to live.
And that's no way to live or run a healthy organization. And so I told him, I was like, I just can't. I don't have it. Let me tell you what I've been going through, how this has been affecting me, and I'm here for you, and I got you. And he was like, thank you. Wow. No one has ever treated me like an equal.
Yes.
Like someone who is working with someone, not someone who's working for somebody.
Powerful.
And so, honestly, honesty, it seems so simple, but so many of us don't do it when we're in places of leadership because we think we're not supposed to. Yes.
As we're talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, belonging is the word that I want us to focus on. When I think of belonging, especially as it relates to teams, belonging is what Dr. King referred to as that beloved community, a place that feels like home, whether it's working or in our communities. And we want to have, as Anna D said, language that is inclusive. And if you don't understand it or don't know, be vulnerable enough to ask for understanding in a way that allows us to create those cultures, because I believe so much in our society today is a lack of listening, a lack of understanding, and an unwillingness to believe that we all belong and that we can really have a good community and a beloved community if we're willing to create that space for one another.
Awesome. Well, that is another Join the Breakthrough. Join us this fall every Monday at 7 p.m. Central Time. And we're going to join on our YouTube. We're going to do live chats every Monday night that we're on. So come on and chat with us and ask your questions in real time. And thank you for being with us and Join the Breakthrough.